just not fair. It is just not fair. If you have a conscience, you cannot throw this lure in good faith. It's just, come on. You gotta feel bad for the bass at this point. It's just not cool. You know I'm kidding, guys. What's happening, everybody? Thanks for checking out the video, and welcome to Keeping It Real Fishing. Guys, today we're going to keep it real on the topic of this new lure from Imakatsu. I'm not sure how to say it. Maybe someone could chime in below. We are looking at the Gillroid. Guys, it goes without saying, this is a ridiculously stunning lure in terms of the visuals. But let's dig deeper tonight, shall we? Let's look at the swimming action, let's talk about the construction, and it'll be hard to ignore the price point. It is a beautiful lure, but is there value in that price and in everything that they give you? Alright guys, so stay tuned, hold on, and let's take a closer look at this bad boy right here, Imakatsu Gillroid. Alright, put it back in the box so you can see what you get. Have been fishing it a little bit, had this lure for about a week now, had it out twice on the water, and I ultimately will have it on the water a few more times before this review is uploaded. I can't read this, so I don't really know what to tell you. It's a boots tail, I can read that. It's a Gillroid. What else do we got? 2.6 ounces, okay, there's some useful information. 15.7 centimeters, and I'm having a hard time doing conversions. That's 5 and change. I'll have to annotate it. I'll put it up here in the video, guys. This color here is the high vis gill, and that's an interesting thing I do want to talk about. So, alright, enough playing around. Let's get it out. Let's show you what you get. This is not so much a follow-up, but Imakatsu came out with the Bassroid last year, which was well received. Same principle. It's a single joint, kind of like a glide bait. And I had heard and kind of saw some early images of this, and I think a lot of people were more excited for this than the bass version. Primarily because this is one of Bass's main sources of forage, of eating, right? Or bluegills. So, I never picked up that Bassroid, and I feel fine about that. But this one, I had to go for. Let's take a look. I took this stuff out, guys. It came in some little plastic wrappers. You have the boot tail. Okay. They also gave a second of the standard flat tail, very soft and pliable, and these little tiny, I don't even know if you could see it, maybe we can get a focus going. There's actually 2 in there. Oh, there's the other one. It's on the other side. And I'm guessing that these were supposed to go through these little holes here, but they just can't poke through this rubber. I guess you'd have to poke through it with a pin first to create an initial hole, because these, to me, they just feel like, I think they're like 25-pound fluorocarbon. They definitely bend when you push them hard, so you could just use toothpicks as well, guys. Anyway, that's all you get inside of the box. Let's take a look. The main thing here, guys, of course, is the visuals. So let's take a quick walk around here and really take that in. This color here is called, I believe this is called the gill, or the female gill. And this one of the things I was just mentioning before, is called the high vis model. Look at that. Now here's the issue. I didn't order this one. I ordered the regular female gill, but I was shipped this one. I got it, and then I said, you know what the heck, I'll just roll with this. If it really does bother me, I could always just fill this in over. I could paint it with like a very dark green or a black. But even though I didn't want to order it, it gave me an opportunity to try this out. I've seen this on various videos online, particularly in Japan. I've seen a lot of guys using these kind of chartreuse markered ones. And so I just wanted to see visually what that looked like in the water, try it in some darkly stained water to see really how much that does pop and how deep I could fish it and still get a visual clue as to the action of it. So that's part of what I'm doing right now in my testing, guys, is just taking in that chartreuse. But man, it glows like nuclear yellow. You could just see it's almost looks like it's self-illuminated. Very, very bright. So here's what you're really paying for with this lure, guys, is this fantastic screen print. And here's one of my issues with the lure. We'll talk about it a little bit more. The lure is, I'm just going to jumble this one all up. All the topics are going to be all over the place. The price of this lure is $79. Try to wrap your head around that. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, or even my swim bait series of videos, as I'm going over my lures, you'll see I have some expensive ones in there, and I don't mind paying for quote-unquote expensive lures if there's value there or if there's a lot of custom craftsmanship. My problem with this lure, guys, and some of the other things we're seeing is that this is not hand-painted. This is not a time-intensive thing that someone is molding the resin and, you know, filing down the flashing and all this other stuff. This is a mass-produced, injection-molded lure, gets pumped out as a clear acrylic, and then the screen print goes on. Okay? That's it. So nothing in that process justifies the price. Nothing about the materials, it's not like they're using any exotic materials here, justify the price. So is it stunningly good looking? And is it highly accurate too? They're going for a real, true representation of a gill and not some interpretation of it. Yes, no doubt, can't fault it. It looks absolutely amazing. Does that coincide with what they're charging for it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's absolutely absurd. I don't know why. Really, we see it from the Japanese manufacturers. Here from Imakatsu, Depths does this with the slide swimmers. I don't know where this comes from. This idea that we're a Japanese company, so immediately our lures are going to be coming upwards of $100. I guess because the market makes it happen, right? Enough people are willing to buy it such that they can produce it. But from just a logical standpoint, I know I'm beefing here, but this is something I want to get off my chest. From a logical standpoint, there is no value, right? This is not a time-consuming thing to produce. That would be if it was handmade. There is not scarce materials or some material that's very difficult to work with, like a super hard metal or something that you would need some crazy machine to work with it. No, it's just regular plastics. And you have the screen print, which we're seeing on lures like this. And we saw this last year on a lure that comes in at half the price in the Jackal Gantero. So I don't know. I don't know about the price, but all right, there's my little vent on that. If you're jonesing for a super highly accurate lure and you got the money and you just like, you know what, I want to do it, then by all means. But there is nothing about this lure intrinsically that justifies that really, really high price. So, all right, I think you know where I feel on that. Let's move on to discuss the lure itself in more detail. All right, so you could see that right here in this forward portion, there's a little bit more detailing. You can see it's kind of dimpled or has some kind of ridges to it in this area with the gill plate, and then the rest of it is just kind of like a smooth finish. The detail is incredible. It's that photorealistic kind of screen printing. We do have colors going down to the bottom. It says Gillroid. Not too prominent though. I like that. The color choice here is subtle. It's not like it was black or something that would be in contrast to this. It's still very natural looking if viewed from the bottom. The hook hangers, I like this one that's integrated there. These don't rotate or anything like that, but that rear one has been integrated. The hooks are really, really big for the lure. They're super big. I'm just going to roll in some other lures here as I'm talking about it, guys. Like here they are in comparison to the Gantarelle, and they're so much bigger. They're kind of like disproportionate for the lure. I don't know if that is in part due to the weighting of the lure, if maybe they didn't get the weighting quite right and they had to run a bigger hook, but it just looks a little out of place. I mean, it's totally fine, but it just looks like it should have a little bit of a smaller hook. I don't know what brand they are. They are a black chrome. They are really, really kind of like classic Japanese sticky sharp. If you just graze against them, they're poking into you. Again, I'm not sure on the split rings either, but these are also a black kind of chrome split ring. One interesting thing I saw on the inside, I wonder if you're going to be able to see this. Above that metal, kind of that pivot point, if you look very closely there, there's what appears to be like another piece of like fluorocarbon. You can probably see it right there. It connects the front portion to the rear portion. And I have no idea what's that doing. It seemingly doesn't seem to do anything. The amount of travel here is dictated by the two main hanger assemblies here, so I have no idea what that little piece of, it just looks like a monofilament or a fluoro is all about. Correction, I do know. We live and we learn, guys. This is actually an edit about 2 weeks after what you were just watching a few seconds ago. I was just about to upload the video, and I just was a little bit more digging around, looking to see what else was out there, if there was any other information from people more knowledgeable about this, and guess what? I found exactly that. The U.S. distributor for Imakatsu. There's a gentleman from Tackle Express. I'll put the link below. I'm shouting him out because I got this information 100% from this gentleman. He put up a video on how to tune this bait, and as part of that video, he says directly what that little piece of plastic in there is all about. So I'm just going to share with you real quickly what he had in that video. Basically, the Gillroid has a screw on top here, which I did see before, but I wasn't sure if I was supposed to take it out, if it could come out. And you can. This is also true on the Bassroid series. You unscrew it a little bit, and the rest of it will pull out. And then, I'm going to take this apart kind of closely here, and hopefully we can get our focus. You can see that little plastic piece there. I stand by my assertion that I think it's either 20 or 25 pound fluoro or mono. It's really not that special. And this is it. That's all there is to it. Just a little, about a 3/4 of an inch long piece. It is not really anything. Let's get that focus going here. It's pretty pliable. Again, it just looks like a piece of fluoro. Maybe 30-pound fluoro. It's pretty thick, but totally pliable, not very stiff. And what this this gentleman said, and I'm sorry I couldn't get his name. He said it a little quick for me. Basically, this little piece in here is meant to tune the action of the lure. Now, he's saying that, but I have to say, I'm going to have to take it out and fish it, guys. I'm putting up this review now before I have a chance to do that, if I have a chance to do that. We are getting into the latter half of December, but I just have a hard time believing that this little tiny piece of plastic that just moves around kind of freely in there has anything to do with the action. But the claim is that with it in here, it gives the lure a tighter swimming action, and removing it gives it a kind of a wider S-curve, that it's going to kick out a little bit wider on the sides. And I just have a real hard time believing that, because that thing just fits kind of loosely in those two holes. And then once in there though, and with this retaining pin in place, totally the amount of travel is dictated, whoops, let me get that in there. The amount of travel is dictated by those pins. And the larger plastic assembly, that little thing on bottom there, is not doing anything to stop the lure. Travel in this range is dictated by when those two pieces hit. Same this way, and front to back is the diameter of that circle there, and when the pin hits it. So in no way does that little piece really alter the movement, and you can see how small and how pliable it was. I don't know, maybe in the water it helps to dampen it a little bit. I guess that's probably what this would be considered, as a little bit of a damper. But maybe at the slowest speeds it does something, but certainly at high speeds, I mean, this thing is kicking back and forth. You can hear that later on in the video in all the underwater footage I have. When you hear that click-clack, you know that this side has hit that side and this has hit this side. So you're getting full extension of the rear portion of the bait. And I'm just very skeptical that that little piece of whatever it is, we'll say fluorocarbon, is doing anything. But it is in there. You know, they thought enough to actually make two holes in the lure and include it, so perhaps it does have a little bit of an effect. And in addition to that, these little guys here, which I thought were just because there's two of them, and we have the two holes here, and I thought you were supposed to kind of really try to wedge those in there, which I found to be impossible. Guess what they are? It doesn't say anywhere on the packaging, but now you know. They are just two more pieces of this stuff, all cut to the same exact length. So I don't even know what that means. If it implies that this thing is going to flex back and forth to the point that it snaps, it has a you know, a tolerance level, it can only flex, or who knows. but I just figured I'd share this with you guys. You can take it apart. You can mess around with this if you like, see if it changes the action for you. But the other more important thing was, this is actually kind of cool. You could take it apart. That same gentleman from Tackle Express, you can put suspending tape in here. If you want to turn this from a slow float into really whatever you want, if you want to make it basically like a slow sink, and I guess if you pile it up, you might even be able to make it a medium sink, you can put suspending tape in here. Some companies make a kind of a heavy tape. I'm not sure if it's tungsten or not, but you can put it, typically it's kind of going on the bottom and on the outside, but in this case, because you can access the middle, you could put it in here and that would accomplish the same thing. And I forgot to mention in the main part of the review, you also have a hole here, and similar to the Gantarelle from last year, and the idea here also is that you can put a very small weight on here, maybe like 1/8 of an ounce. I think the rep from Shimano, or Jackal rather, told me that I believe it was 1/8 or maybe 1/16 of an ounce on the Gantarelle would make it a slow sink and suspending at, I think it was like 2 or 3 feet. So messing around with the weights here, guys, you can accomplish the same thing. Little weight there, suspending strips here, and now you know what that little wire is all about. All right, so let's get back to the present and into the review. But anyway, just a little observation there I want to call your attention to. As you could see on mine, I have the bright chartreuse, and this is referred to as the high vis. If you see that online, guys, and if you're wondering what that's all about, that's what it is. In every color this is offered in, this is in that female gill color, they have it in a standard, and then they offer it in a high vis, as well as all the other variations. I did not want this, and as a matter of fact, I did not order this, but this one was erroneously shipped to me. My first instinct was to send it back, but then I said, you know what, let me try it. I think really what this is all about is just visually, just being able to see your lure and what it's doing. I have to assume that this is for if you're going to fish this in very stained water. And a lot of people don't like fishing swim baits in very stained water, but I can't really otherwise see the reason between having this high vis just on top. What the fish is going to see is going to be more the kind of the bottom 3/4 view, or even the back, or of course the side, but I don't think too many fish are going to be looking down on this. So this is really for you, and the bright color kind of denotes the idea that you are going to have a hard time seeing it because of the color of the water. So anyway, guys, this is at high vis. I'll tell you this much. It is so bright, it is like nuclear chartreuse, that even on a long cast, if there's not too much glare, if it's a relatively cloudy day, you could really, really easily see this. I think if you're starting out with these baits and you want that visual confirmation as to what your lure is actually doing, if you want to know the motion of the lure, this is definitely going to help you. If you guys are familiar with glide baits and you can, feel what the lure is doing through the rod and through the slack or the lack thereof in the line, you might not want this. But I think starting out, this might not be a bad idea to kind of get the hang of, did you really make that lure do an about face? Did you make it kind of kick out and glide to one side? Are you doing what you're trying to accomplish when your lure is far away and you can't really get a visual on it? Or this is, this one's kind of a slow float, but on the sinking ones where you're not going to be able to see it, are you eliciting the action that you want to? These high vis ones are going to give you that visual confirmation. And you know what I'm going to do actually, in those situations that I don't want it, I'm just going to put a piece of, Gorilla Tape over this. Gorilla Tape is this black. Again, fish are most of the time going to see it from this angle or from that angle, so they're not going to see the tape on top. And even if they did, it's dark. It's going to blend it in general. So in those situations I want it, I take the tape off. Gorilla Tape is sticky stuff. It's not going to come off really on its own. And, clear water, or if I just don't want this showing up, I can just put that tape on. So it's almost like this wasn't my intended choice, the high-vis model, but it offers you kind of two options. You can cover it up for the times you want it. You can have it exposed for the times you don't want it. So if I was to choose just one, the high-vis model, might be a good choice. All right, guys. So we know it's beautiful. Let's talk about what this lure is actually doing in the water, this style of glide bait, and the action that this particular lure, this Gillroid, has. Alright, so the Gillroid single joint glide bait, not really. They're not even really marketing it as such. and here's what I found, guys. I'm going to be rolling in some other baits here to illustrate this point. The ability for a lure to have a classic glide action to it, in my casual observations, is brought about by two things, or kind of three. One is going to be the amount of travel right here. The more this thing can turn to the side, from here to here, the further this travel, the more it could do those long kind of side-to-side sweeping glides. The less travel, as it might stand to reason, the less it can kind of glide out to each side, and it's going to still do a side-to-side action, but it's going to be a little bit tighter. The other thing is the sheer mass of the lure, and this is something that I've noticed between my smaller lures and my larger, heavier lures. So for example, this guy right here is a depths. You can see that it has a lot of travel from side to side, so it really makes the head turn, right? It just has a steeper angle that it could turn on, but this one can't go nearly as wide as a depths 250, even though this angle is just about the same. And really what it boils down to is the size of the lure and the mass of the lure. So if you're looking for something with a real wide saunter to it, you're going to want to look at larger, heavier lures that have a steeper angle between the tail portion and the main portion of the body. So that, like this one here, you could really push it if you compress the plastic. That wouldn't happen in the water, but see how steep that angle is versus something like this? As you can imagine, one is going to have a wider sweep than the other one. So this one here in the water, guys, we're going to be rolling some clips and you're going to see that swimming action. I think it's really good. It does have a nice side to side on a steady retrieve. Holds up pretty well when you do it at a fast retrieve. And if you do those half turns of the handle, you can get that side to side walk the dog action. That action comes through the use of the handle. You don't really have to use your rod to elicit that action. It's all through the reel to get those side to sides. The little half turns will do that for you. The other tail, the boot tail, it does, what is unique about this lure is that you really do get two actions in one. When you have the boot tail on, the boot does kick very nicely. Because this lure is really called a slow float, you can keep this on top. You can kind of wake the surface and have this tail kicking, and it doesn't do as much of a side to side as it does a little bit of like a rocking like this. So you are getting two actions in one, depending on which tail you want to use, the flat tail or the boot tail. Alright guys, now, alright, let's talk about it. This is a gorgeous lure, the action is solid, but it all comes at a price, and let's talk about that. Not cool, Imakatsu, not cool. You make a really nice lure. It's a lure that a lot of people are going to want to have, and then when they see the price, the sticker shock is just going to make their head spin. Let's get something out of the way right now. I don't understand why the Japanese manufacturers, here's the depths, I don't understand where this is coming from. Other lures, I got all sorts of stuff here, guys, I'm going to roll in. Savage Gear, River to Sea, well, here's a Lucky Craft, that's a Japanese lure, so I guess it doesn't hold true for all of them. Some of these guys, they really feel, confident about themselves. They're charging $100 for a single fishing lure in the depths here. I guess Imakatsu said, hey, Depths is doing it, we can do the same. Let's charge a little less, let's charge $79. Ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I know some of you guys might be saying, well, what the heck are you doing with them then? And guys, I thank you for watching, and your views help to give about some money, and then I can review these things. I'm really putting it out there for my own interest, but also mainly for you guys. So that's why, because I know I'll get the comments, if you think they're so overpriced, why buy them? That's why I want to put out these reviews and gives you guys a better sense. But yeah, guys, value comes down to a couple things. I am not shy about buying what I feel is an expensive fishing lure if I think there's a lot of value in it. And let me just diverge for a second. An example of that will be something like, if I can get it off here, something like a Matt Lure's Gill. These things are night and day. This is a mass-produced lure in a formed, injection-molded plastic. These things are all stamped, cut out. This is a screen print application. This is a handmade resin. They're painted one at a time. There's up to 30 steps in the painting process. There's actual multiple layers in the painting process. There's a depth to this paint. The resin is being continuously evolved by the manufacturer, so that's really, really tough. It's purposefully made to be durable. He markets them as such that you can, well, you don't want to, but if you should cast into rocks, or you can beat this lure up, and he has designed it so that while it's a pricey lure, it's going to last you. He makes it such that you're going to have this for a long time. You've invested a lot of money, the manufacturer wants you to be happy, and it's not going to break down on you very quickly. A little bit of a sidetrack there, and that's why, you can tell by the tone of my voice, I'm so upset with these lures. I've already seen multiple pictures online. I'm already getting it just from a few outings I have. I'm starting to get some hook rash, and I know that this is just going to peel right off. There's the screen print. There's no layer of, heavy epoxy or gloss over this. I know that some guys apply it, and nothing stops you from doing that yourself, but why should you have to? If you're spending this kind of money on a lure, I want the manufacturer to go all out and to give me something that is going to last. It's going to hold up, for all the fish that are hitting it, and it's going to hold up just, from casual use. I shouldn't have hook rash in my first couple outings of using it, because that tells me, yeah, this is going to come right off. And do you think I'm going to run back to them and get another one after the paint on an $80 lure has come off within, a couple weeks or months of owning it? Of course not. So this is one of the things I really don't like, guys, because otherwise it's a great lure. They're being very innovative in giving you the two tails. They've designed the lure. I think this action here is a compromise between giving you a solid side-to-side action with this tail and also giving you a solid action with a completely different tail. Finish, of course, is incredible. It's a really, really solid lure, but the price is laughable. And I just don't understand why some manufacturers think that they can charge that. There is no exotic material being used here. It's not like we're using, platinum in here. There's nothing that I could see about the manufacturing of this lure, which makes it so much more expensive than something like this. All right, this one might have a little bit of a different profile, but same ingredients. We have a clear plastic, kind of polycarbonate mold, and then we apply some kind of finish to it. So, why they charge this, I don't know. The value, guys, is not there. It simply is not there. That's not to say that, I'm saying don't get it. We all have different levels of resources, and, it is a gorgeous lure, but value-wise, it's not there. Let me throw in a couple others to give you some reference points. Last year, at least as of the making of this video, last year the Gantarel came out. This is $39, and a lot of people balked at that price. They're like, oh my god, a $40 lure. Swimbait fishermen, not so much. They're used to the higher prices, but it's a gorgeous lure. A lot of people wanted it, and they were like, oh, $40. But seriously, twice the price for him, and he's not offering twice the performance. This one here has rotating hook hangers, has a rotating tie point, extra points where you could tie on hooks or feathers, still with the realistic finish, just like they're doing. What else did we have on this one? We have fins that acts like a bill on a crankbait. There's a lot going on in the Gantarel, and these guys decided to charge twice as much. Definitely not cool. Other options, guys, in the bluegill market. This one's not a glide bait, but if you can spend $19.99, you can get a Lucky Craft real bluegill. This is more of a serpentine kind of swimming action. Yeah, definitely a different lure, but Japanese lure, $20, $40, $80. It's just a little frustrating, because it is a quality lure, and you're just pricing yourself out of the market, And I don't want to see things keep going this way either. If you're going to spend that kind of money, I would recommend something like a true reference lure, something like the matte lures. There's a whole lot of TLC and a whole lot of time. These things are very time intensive to create. Multiple steps in this thing. It's not just kind of slapped together quickly. Again, I know it's a very different category of lure, but guys, if you are ever going to get yourself something really nice, I don't know, I just can't justify this guy here, whereas you have some other nicer offerings out there. Alright guys, so that was my my little rant on value. Let's wrap up here with the Gillroid. Alright guys, last thing I want to do is I just want to compare it in size to some other popular lures. This is another one that just came out. This is a Savage Gear, the 3D Shine and Glide, 7¼ inches, $24.99. Kind of getting back to that price point there. And this one does have a wider gliding action just by the angle that this tail kicks and the size of the lure. But I just want to show you size-wise. Okay. Yeah, here's the depths. I know people love the depths. It's really put on a pedestal. It's a good lure, don't get me wrong, but again, it's another lure that's not deserving of the absurd price. But there it is. Just want to show you guys size-wise. Depths comes in at 7 inches. Different class of lure. Obviously, we're looking at that more of a trout profile versus the panfish profile. Little guy, River to Sea, 168. Definitely a much more affordable lure and a much more compact lure. I think this one is approachable for a lot of people starting out with swim baits. River to Sea also offers it in larger sizes if you want to step it up to a bigger profile in the water. But that's how it compares to the Gillroid. And yeah, in that category, this one is a triple segment lure, but it swims somewhat similarly to the Gillroid. And there is the Jackal Gantarelle. As you can see, a little bit longer there. There is the boot tail version for this, but in terms of the actual profile, the Gantarelle just comes in at a little bit of a larger meal overall. Alright guys, so let's roll into the bulk of the swimming action and the footage in the water. In closing, it's a great lure. It's just really overpriced. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Quality lure, fantastic finish. They give you some options. It's got all the pieces, all the check marks, or all the boxes are checked off. The price just isn't there. I would like to see this at a minimum of half the price, and to be taken seriously, I'd like to see some of these baits coming down lower. I'll give you that it's a swim bait, I'll give you that there's more materials, but I would love to see this at $29. I mean, I know for a lot of you still $29 is, you know, forget about it if you're not buying anything more than like spinner baits and stuff, but for where this lure falls and the fact that, again, I've seen a lot of this paint come off very rapidly at some other people's, you have got to lower the price, guys. You have a quality lure, people want to buy it, but it's just, it's comical, and frankly, it's an insult to charge this much on something that is, you know, it's just not gonna, doesn't have the staying power to last for years. So, anyway, guys, let's take a look at the swimming action in the water of the Gillroid.